There exists a spiritual secret so powerful that religious authorities tried to suppress it for centuries. Joel Goldsmith discovered this hidden truth and faced fierce opposition from established churches. They feared what would happen if people knew they could access divine power directly without intermediaries. This secret doesn't require priests, pastors, special buildings, or complex rituals. It bypasses every human institution claiming authority over your spiritual connection. The moment you understand this principle, you become spiritually self-sufficient and uncontrollable by external religious systems that profit from spiritual dependency. Today you'll learn what they desperately wanted to keep hidden from humanity. This knowledge has transformed thousands of lives, healed impossible medical conditions, and created miracles that defy scientific explanation. Prepare yourself for a revelation that will forever change how you approach the divine. The authorities knew that if this secret became widespread, their entire power structure would crumble overnight. People would no longer need spiritual middlemen or religious institutions to access divine consciousness and experience miraculous transformation in every area of life. Joel Goldsmith called it the practice of recognizing your true spiritual identity, not as a flawed human being desperately seeking divine favor, but as consciousness itself expressing through temporary human experience. This recognition instantly dissolves the illusion of separation between you and infinite divine intelligence. When you stop believing you're separate from divine consciousness, something extraordinary happens in your life. The same power that creates galaxies and heals wounds begins flowing through your awareness effortlessly. You become a transparent channel for divine action in the world around you. This isn't positive thinking, visualization, or any human technique. This is recognizing what has always been absolutely true, but was deliberately hidden from your awareness by those who profit from spiritual ignorance. You are not a body with consciousness limited by physical laws. You are consciousness itself appearing as a body, with unlimited access to divine wisdom, healing power, and infinite supply. The moment you truly understand this, your entire relationship with life transforms, and miracles become your natural daily experience rather than rare exceptions. The religious authorities knew this secret would completely end their control over humanity's spiritual development. If people understood they could commune directly with divine consciousness, who would need priests, pastors, or spiritual intermediaries collecting money for salvation? The entire power structure would collapse immediately. Joel faced severe persecution from religious establishments because his teachings eliminated the need for spiritual middlemen completely. He taught that every person has direct access to the same divine consciousness that Jesus demonstrated 2,000 years ago. This threatened centuries of institutional religious control and profit. Churches banned his books from their libraries, ministers condemned his teachings from pulpits, and religious authorities tried desperately to silence his message. But truth has a way of surviving even the most determined suppression efforts. Those who discovered this secret experienced profound transformation. They found healings that medical science couldn't explain, abundance that human effort couldn't produce, and peace that external circumstances couldn't disturb. No external religious authority could provide what they accessed directly through recognition of their true spiritual identity as divine consciousness itself. The secret operates through what Joel called impersonal divine love. This isn't human emotion or personal affection, but the very fabric of divine consciousness itself. When you align with this impersonal love, you become an instrument through which divine healing and infinite provision flow naturally into the world. This divine love doesn't choose favorites or require worthiness demonstrations. It flows equally to all who open their consciousness to receive it without condition. The moment you stop trying to earn divine favor and simply recognize your inherent unity with divine consciousness, miracles become natural. Most people spend entire lifetimes begging God for help while remaining completely unconscious of their true spiritual identity. They pray as separate beings asking for divine intervention instead of recognizing they are divine consciousness temporarily appearing in human form. Those who understand this secret stop begging and start recognizing. They discover they already possess everything they've been desperately seeking outside themselves. Health, abundance, peace, and wisdom flow naturally when consciousness recognizes its own divine nature and infinite capacity. Sarah had suffered from chronic fibromyalgia pain for 15 long years. Multiple doctors offered no hope, countless medications provided no lasting relief, and specialists admitted they were completely puzzled by her deteriorating condition. She had exhausted every medical option available and faced a future of increasing disability. The pain had consumed her life completely. Simple tasks became impossible, sleep was elusive, and depression overwhelmed her as she watched her dreams disappear. Her family struggled to understand her invisible suffering, and she felt isolated in a body that had become her prison. When Sarah learned Joel's secret, she began practicing the recognition of her true spiritual identity daily. Instead of identifying as a sick person desperately seeking healing, she recognized herself as divine consciousness temporarily appearing in human form, naturally whole and perfect. Within 3 weeks of consistent practice, her pain began diminishing noticeably. After 2 months, she was completely pain-free for the first time in over a decade. Medical tests showed no explanation for her recovery. She had accessed the same healing power that authorities desperately tried to keep hidden. Michael's construction business was failing catastrophically despite his most determined efforts. He had invested his life savings into the company, worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week, and watched his dreams crumble as bills mounted and customers disappeared during the economic downturn that destroyed his industry. Bankruptcy seemed inevitable within weeks. His marriage was suffering under unbearable financial stress, and his children didn't understand why Daddy was always worried and angry. Michael felt like a complete failure as a provider and questioned everything he had believed about hard work leading to success. He discovered Joel's teaching about impersonal divine supply flowing through consciousness rather than human effort alone. Michael stopped frantically trying to force business success and began recognizing himself as consciousness through which divine intelligence could express unlimited creativity and provision. His business transformed dramatically within 6 months. New opportunities appeared effortlessly through unexpected channels, ideal clients found him through referrals he never sought, and innovative solutions emerged naturally from his expanded awareness. He learned that divine supply flows through recognition, not struggle. Lisa struggled with deep depression and crippling anxiety that no therapy or medication could touch effectively. She felt completely disconnected from life, hopeless about her future, and convinced that something was fundamentally wrong with her mental and emotional makeup that couldn't be fixed. Traditional treatments provided only temporary relief at best, leaving her feeling more isolated and broken than before. The side effects of medications often made her feel worse, and therapy sessions seemed to reinforce her identity as someone who was mentally ill and needed professional help to function. When Lisa began practicing Joel's secret recognition daily, she stopped identifying as a mentally ill person and began recognizing herself as divine consciousness, temporarily experiencing human challenges. This fundamental shift in identity changed everything about how she related to her thoughts and emotions. The depression lifted gradually over several weeks as she consistently practiced seeing through the illusion of her separate, flawed identity. She discovered that peace and joy were not emotional states to be achieved, but her natural condition when identification with limited human selfhood dissolved completely. These transformations weren't isolated incidents or coincidences. Thousands of people across different countries and backgrounds discovered this hidden secret and experienced similar miraculous changes in their health, relationships, finances, and inner peace. The pattern was always identical: shift identity from limited human to divine consciousness. The authorities who tried to suppress this knowledge understood its revolutionary power perfectly. When people discover they don't need external spiritual authority, religious institutions lose their control and income. When individuals access divine power directly, dependency on human intermediaries disappears completely and permanently. This is precisely why Joel Goldsmith's most powerful teachings were systematically marginalized and his books removed from many religious bookstores. The secret he revealed threatens every system built on spiritual dependency and religious hierarchy that profits from human ignorance. The transformation stories continue multiplying as more people discover what was hidden from them. Each person who recognizes their true spiritual identity becomes living proof that divine consciousness operates through human experience when recognition replaces the illusion of separation from infinite intelligence and love. If these transformation stories inspire you, like this video to help others find these teachings, subscribe for more Joel Goldsmith wisdom, and comment. What healing journey resonated most with you? Beyond the basic recognition practice, Joel taught specific advanced techniques for deepening this spiritual awareness dramatically. The first is what he called listening prayer. Instead of talking to God with requests and demands, you become completely still and listen for the divine voice speaking through your consciousness. This listening isn't waiting for audible words or mystical experiences. It's opening your awareness to receive divine guidance, healing energy, and infinite wisdom that flows naturally when human thinking steps aside completely. Most people never learn to truly listen because they're too busy making spiritual demands. Practice this by setting aside quiet time daily without any agenda. Ask no questions, make no requests, simply listen with your heart open and expectant. Divine consciousness will begin revealing itself through your awareness in ways that transform your understanding of prayer and spiritual communion. The longer you practice listening prayer, the more sensitive you become to divine guidance operating through your consciousness. Solutions appear for problems you haven't even verbalized, and wisdom emerges that surpasses anything human thinking could produce through analysis or planning. Joel also taught the principle of non-resistance as a direct path to spiritual demonstration. When you stop fighting circumstances and instead recognize divine consciousness operating through all experiences, you become perfectly aligned with the power that can transform any situation instantaneously. This doesn't mean passive acceptance of harmful conditions or remaining in abusive situations. It means recognizing that divine intelligence is present even in challenging circumstances, working to bring about greater good than human thinking could imagine, plan, or orchestrate through personal effort. When you practice non-resistance while maintaining recognition of your spiritual identity, you become a completely clear channel for divine action. Solutions appear from unexpected sources, circumstances shift in your favor, and what seemed impossible becomes natural and effortless. Resistance creates the very obstacles we're trying to overcome. Non-resistance allows divine intelligence to flow freely through consciousness, dissolving problems at their source rather than fighting symptoms. This principle alone can transform your entire life experience when applied consistently. The technique of impersonal benediction releases divine healing energy into any situation, without attempting to direct or control outcomes according to human preferences. You simply recognize divine love and intelligence present everywhere, blessing all people and circumstances with your awareness of spiritual truth. This practice completely dissolves the human tendency to judge, criticize, or try to fix other people according to our limited understanding. Instead, you become an instrument through which divine consciousness blesses the world, trusting infinite wisdom to bring about perfect results in ways human thinking cannot comprehend. As you practice impersonal benediction regularly, you'll notice how your presence begins affecting others positively. People feel peaceful around you without knowing why. Situations resolve harmoniously when you're present, and healing energy flows naturally wherever your consciousness recognizes divine love. This isn't about becoming a healer or spiritual teacher. It's about recognizing that divine consciousness naturally blesses everything it touches when human personality steps aside. Your transformed awareness becomes a blessing to the world simply by recognizing what is already spiritually true. Joel taught that gratitude is not an emotion, but a recognition of divine abundance already present in consciousness itself. True spiritual gratitude doesn't depend on external circumstances, but arises from awareness of your inherent unity with infinite supply, wisdom, and love that never changes. This recognition of ever-present divine abundance attracts corresponding experiences in the physical realm, not because you're trying to manipulate outcomes through positive thinking, but because consciousness aligned with truth naturally demonstrates harmony, health, and prosperity in all areas of life. Practice recognizing divine abundance, present right now, regardless of appearances or bank account balances. See through the illusion of lack to the infinite supply that consciousness contains within itself. This shift in perception allows divine provision to manifest through your awareness. Most people practice gratitude only when things go well, but spiritual gratitude recognizes divine abundance as the unchanging foundation of existence. When you live from this recognition, external supply becomes a natural reflection of the infinite abundance that consciousness is. Many people struggle with this practice initially because they've been conditioned for decades to identify strongly with their human problems and limitations. The mind resists releasing its grip on familiar patterns of thinking, even when those patterns consistently create suffering and limitation. When resistance arises, don't fight it or judge yourself for experiencing difficulty with the practice. Recognize that resistance itself is just another temporary appearance in consciousness, no more real or permanent than clouds passing through an empty sky that remains untouched. Your true spiritual identity remains completely unaffected by temporary mental turbulence or emotional reactions. Like the sun behind clouds, divine consciousness continues shining regardless of whatever appears to obscure it from your awareness temporarily. Persistence in recognition practice gradually dissolves identification with limiting thoughts and emotions completely. Like water wearing away stone through consistent pressure, regular return to spiritual truth eventually erodes the hardest patterns of human conditioning and limitation that seemed permanent. Some people expect immediate dramatic results and become discouraged when transformation unfolds gradually, over weeks or months. They abandon the practice before it has sufficient time to establish new patterns of consciousness and demonstration. This impatience often stems from treating spiritual recognition like a technique to get things. True spiritual transformation operates according to divine timing, not human schedules or expectations. Trust the process completely, even when results seem slow or subtle. Every moment of recognition contributes to expanding awareness and dissolving limitations, even when changes aren't immediately visible. Divine consciousness works like seeds planted in soil. You don't see immediate results, but growth is happening beneath the surface. Suddenly, new life breaks through, and you realize transformation has been occurring all along through your faithful practice of recognition. The most profound transformations often happen quietly and naturally over time. You wake up one day and realize that problems that once seemed insurmountable have simply dissolved, replaced by greater peace, clarity, and demonstration of divine harmony in every area. Others struggle because they try to use this recognition practice to fix specific problems, rather than understanding it as a complete transformation of identity and consciousness. They approach it with the same controlling mindset that created their difficulties originally, defeating the purpose entirely. Joel emphasized repeatedly that you cannot use divine consciousness for personal gain or to manipulate outcomes according to human preferences. Divine consciousness uses you as an instrument for its expression when you surrender the human sense of control completely and allow infinite wisdom to operate. Release attachment to specific results and trust divine intelligence to demonstrate what serves the highest good for everyone involved. Often the solutions that emerge are far better than what human thinking could have imagined, planned, or orchestrated through personal effort. The moment you try to direct divine consciousness toward personal goals, you've stepped back into human thinking and limitation. True spiritual demonstration happens when consciousness recognizes its own divine nature and allows infinite intelligence to express freely through expanded awareness. The most common obstacle is doubt that arises from comparing your inner spiritual experience with external appearances that seem to contradict what you're practicing. When circumstances seem to contradict spiritual truth, the human mind questions whether this recognition practice actually works. Joel taught that appearances are temporary and changeable, but spiritual truth is eternal and unchanging regardless of what seems to be happening in the physical world. Your consistent recognition of divine truth gradually transforms appearances to match spiritual reality. Don't let temporary conditions discourage your practice or make you question the validity of spiritual truth. Every master of spiritual demonstration faced similar challenges and doubts. They succeeded not by avoiding doubt, but by returning consistently to recognition of spiritual truth. Remember that appearances often intensify just before breakthrough occurs. This is consciousness releasing old patterns and making space for greater demonstration. Your persistence through apparent contradictions will yield the same transformative results that others have experienced. If these challenge-breaking techniques speak to your heart, like to support this content, subscribe for advanced spiritual practices, and comment. Which obstacle are you ready to transform now? Advanced practitioners learn to maintain recognition of their spiritual identity throughout daily activities, rather than limiting it to formal meditation periods. They discover that consciousness can remain aware of its divine nature while shopping, working, or handling mundane responsibilities. This continuous recognition transforms ordinary activities into opportunities for spiritual demonstration. Problems get solved through divine guidance that emerges naturally. Relationships become more harmonious without effort, and even routine tasks flow with greater ease and efficiency. The goal isn't to escape human experience, but to live it from the recognition of your divine identity. This brings heaven to earth, demonstrating spiritual truth through practical human circumstances in ways that bless both yourself and everyone you encounter daily. When recognition becomes continuous rather than sporadic, you discover that there's no separation between spiritual practice and daily living. Every moment becomes an opportunity to demonstrate divine consciousness expressing through human experience in practical, beneficial ways. Some advanced practitioners develop the ability to extend healing consciousness to others without their knowledge or consent. By recognizing divine perfection present in another person's spiritual identity, they become instruments through which divine healing energy reaches those who are suffering. This isn't mental manipulation or psychic interference, but simple recognition of spiritual truth that dissolves illusions of sickness, lack, or discord, wherever consciousness acknowledges divine perfection. The other person's healing results from their own spiritual nature being recognized and honored. Joel emphasized that true healing work is always completely impersonal. You're not healing anyone or fixing anything through personal power. You're simply being aware of spiritual truth and allowing divine consciousness to demonstrate its natural harmony through expanded awareness. The most powerful healers throughout history have been those who could see past appearances to the divine perfection that exists as everyone's true spiritual identity. This recognition allows divine healing to flow naturally, wherever consciousness acknowledges what is already spiritually true. Advanced students learn to recognize divine intelligence operating through apparent obstacles and challenges. Instead of seeing problems as evidence of separation from God, they discover how difficulties often serve to deepen spiritual understanding and expand capacity for divine demonstration. This doesn't mean seeking suffering or remaining in harmful situations unnecessarily. It means recognizing that divine wisdom can transform any experience into an opportunity for greater spiritual realization and demonstration. Even mistakes and failures become stepping stones to deeper understanding. When you consistently recognize divine intelligence operating through all experiences, you discover that nothing can ultimately harm your spiritual progress or separate you from divine consciousness. Every situation becomes a chance to recognize and demonstrate your true identity. Challenges that once seemed like punishments or evidence of spiritual failure are revealed as opportunities for consciousness to expand its recognition of divine truth. What appeared to be obstacles become doorways to greater demonstration of spiritual identity and divine power. The most advanced practitioners develop what Joel called spiritual transparency. They become so established in recognition of their divine identity that human personality disappears and divine consciousness expresses freely through their words, actions, and presence without obstruction. These individuals become healing presences wherever they go. People feel inexplicable peace in their company. Problems resolve mysteriously in their vicinity, and divine love flows through them to bless everyone they encounter. They've become clear windows through which divine light reaches the world. This transparency isn't achieved through human effort, but through consistent recognition that gradually dissolves the illusion of separate human selfhood completely. What remains is consciousness itself, expressing divine qualities of love, wisdom, peace, and power through apparently human form. Such individuals often seem ordinary on the surface, but their consciousness radiates a quality that transforms everyone around them. They demonstrate what becomes possible when recognition of spiritual identity becomes so complete that divine consciousness operates without human interference. As your practice deepens over months and years, you begin to understand why authorities tried so desperately to suppress this secret. When enough people discover their true spiritual identity and direct access to divine consciousness, humanity will no longer accept limitation, control, or spiritual dependency. This transformation doesn't happen through revolution or conflict, but through recognition alone. As individuals awaken to their divine nature, old patterns of fear, competition, and control naturally dissolve. A new world emerges based on recognition of divine consciousness present in all beings. You're part of this global awakening whether you realize it or not. Every moment you spend recognizing your spiritual identity contributes to humanity's collective transformation. Your individual awakening ripples out to bless the entire world in ways you may never fully comprehend. The authorities feared this outcome because they understood that people established in spiritual identity cannot be controlled through fear, guilt, or promises of future reward. They know themselves as consciousness itself, naturally free and inherently divine. The secret Joel revealed isn't just about personal transformation and individual healing. It's about recognizing the divine consciousness that underlies all existence. When you see through the illusion of separation, you discover that the same consciousness expressing as you also expresses as every person. This recognition dissolves all basis for conflict, competition, and judgment permanently. How can you fight with yourself? How can you lack anything when you are consciousness itself? How can you be separate from divine love when that love is what you are? Living from this recognition transforms not just your personal experience but your relationships with others and with the world itself. You become an instrument of healing, blessing, and divine demonstration wherever life takes you, simply by being aware of truth. When enough individuals recognize their divine identity, the collective consciousness of humanity shifts. Wars become impossible between people who recognize themselves as one consciousness appearing as many. Competition gives way to cooperation, and fear dissolves in the light of recognized unity. Years of consistent practice will establish you in unshakable recognition of your spiritual identity. External circumstances will no longer determine your peace, happiness, or sense of security. You'll discover that you carry heaven within consciousness itself, available regardless of worldly conditions. This doesn't mean you'll never face challenges or that human life becomes effortless and problem-free. It means you'll meet every experience from recognition of your divine nature, allowing infinite wisdom and love to guide your responses and demonstrate harmony through whatever appears. The authorities feared this outcome because people established in spiritual identity cannot be manipulated through fear-based tactics or controlled through promises of future reward. They know themselves as consciousness itself, naturally free, inherently divine, and eternally connected to infinite intelligence. Your recognition of spiritual truth becomes a beacon that guides others to their own awakening. Without preaching or teaching, your transformed consciousness demonstrates what becomes possible when the illusion of separation dissolves and divine identity is recognized and lived. You now possess the secret that religious authorities tried to silence for centuries to maintain their control over humanity's spiritual development. The question isn't whether this knowledge works, but whether you'll apply it consistently enough to transform your consciousness and demonstrate your divine inheritance. Joel Goldsmith gave his life to revealing this truth because he knew it had the power to free humanity from every form of spiritual bondage and limitation that keeps people dependent on external authority. The same divine consciousness that expressed through him expresses through you. Begin today with complete commitment to this practice. Set aside time daily for recognition of your true spiritual identity. Practice listening prayer, non-resistance, and impersonal benediction. Trust divine intelligence to guide your steps and demonstrate its harmony through your transformed consciousness. The secret is no longer hidden from you. You have everything necessary to begin this transformation immediately. Divine consciousness waits only for your recognition to demonstrate its infinite power, love, and wisdom through your human experience. The authorities can no longer silence this truth. If your spiritual understanding expanded through these Joel Goldsmith secrets, like this video, subscribe for more transformative teachings, and comment, "I am transformed," to confirm your new path.